I'm Paul Gibbs. This is Nate Miller. We got Mike Blottenberger with us from Hanover, Pennsylvania. And uh, in this part of the series, we're continuing our talk about songwriting. And
Yeah.
Mike is a lyricist. Nate and I have worked with Mike a little bit, and we've had him as a guest on the the Artist Impact podcast last year. And so we're continuing to talk to Mike tonight about songwriting and what makes a good lyric. Mike, for our listeners and our viewers, give us just a little quick background and a little bit more about who you are, what you do.
Well, I actually currently I'm working at a church. I work in the office, but I continue to write songs, and I'm focusing more on the Christian lyrics. I started that back in the 80s, and I've continued to this day. And I did write some country lyrics for about 20 years. I was doing that, but now I'm focusing totally on the Christian lyrics.
Okay, you've been doing that for quite a while, and you've had some I'm going to use the word success, haven't you, as far as publishing goes?
And publishing, yes, mainly in Nashville. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
In the secular world, Mike, or the Christian world, or both?
Actually, both. The first couple songs were back in. It was still in Nashville, but with a Christian music publisher.
Right. Right. Awesome. And do you play instruments as well, Mike?
Well, a little of the piano. I can pick out some chords, and a little the guitar also too.
Yeah. Okay. We would expect some kind of musical ability. Typically with people that write. Although we have met, I have met one or two that really didn't play an instrument at all. They just sang. And we're wonderful songwriters, but of course that leaves you with a little bit of what chords are we going to put here? How are we going to do this? But you have enough ability to certainly know more about what this song should be and things, at least to get a feel for it. Am I right there, Mike?
Yes, and I think it helps too to know music.
Yeah.
The more you know, it does help.
Yes.
Song structure, chords. It does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, Mike. When you're writing lyrics, are you just in that world of thinking of like rhyme and cadence and rhythm and the subject matter of what you're writing, or are you also hearing melodies that are going with those lyrics, or is it maybe both sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes the lyric will come first. And then I can hear like a tempo, or sometimes I say like a dummy melody that I'll think of to give it cadence. Other times it's the music. People have sent me music and say, "Here, write words to this." So it's my job to fill in the la la la's and the notes.
Right. Yeah, awesome.
Both.
Both. Yeah. Okay. So you have in your head. So you have something in your head as far as like tempo goes, or what style this song is going to be, even if there's no actual melody, no final melody or chord structure to it yet, right?
Yeah, normally I do. Like when I'm writing certain songs, I know they're going to be more up tempo. Like I wrote one called "Faith Under Fire," and I knew that was going to be definitely an up-tempo number.
Okay.
And then you could write like more like a slower worship song. Right. And sometimes they can be more, it depends on how they are, but most of them are slower.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
And Mike, I know you're a pretty prolific writer. Do you have any idea how many songs you've written, the lyric songs you've written to this point? I mean, it has to be.
Well, I do have a folder I've been putting things together, and I'm almost at 300. But that's I've lost many from the 80s.
Oh, I bet.
I don't remember. I can't find. So probably over 300.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
incredible.
Yeah.
But out of that 300, maybe only a handful are really worthy or good songs, I should
Yeah.
say. Lyrics.
So the ones that don't necessarily ever make it to a song, do you ever release them or publish them as poetry, or what do you do with those? Do they just kind of sit on the shelf?
It's sometimes I keep them. Sometimes, like I'm working with a songwriter in Indiana. It's an old friend. We used to write in the '80s, and we've connected again. So she and I are going through some of these older lyrics,
Hmm.
and we're having fun. And actually, we're working on one of the songs now from it.
Oh, great.
Hmm.
There's I have right here, though you can't read it on the camera, a lyric, friends, that Mike just sent. You just wrote this a couple days ago, really, almost literally a few days ago, called "Risen." This is
Yeah.
a great poem, a great lyric, but because there's no music to it yet, I actually read it on the latest episode of the Just Got Music Hour, and I just read the lyric as a poem because the message is so good. And I'm looking forward to put music with that sometime in some way, shape, or form. So, Mike, what makes a strong lyric? What makes a song? What makes the lyrics of a song stand out as being really good, as opposed to it's just not this, that's just not going to cut it.
Well, one thing I believe is I'm finding more and more is it scripture based? Does it have substance?
Okay.
That helps.
Right.
That's the first. Risen. Risen actually, I listened to my pastor's message online. And then after that, I was so inspired by it that I wrote that lyric. And really, it comes from the book of John. So
Yep.
it has a lot of scripture based to it.
Yeah.
That helps too. Another thing is originality. You can't say what everybody's already said.
Yeah.
That
Good.
You have to give a fresh approach to a lyric.
Yeah.
That will help.
I mean, how many songs are there from the 50s and 60s? And some of them were great hits, but they said the same thing over and over that somebody else had said. And we were talking to somebody else, Mike, about, and she called it sometimes rhyme just for the sake of rhyme.
Yeah, rhymey, she called it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like forced rhymes.
But that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, forced rhymes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm thinking about what you said about substance. That and we got to. I mean, I don't think it works these days, but back then, it seemed like there was more to what made a great song than just a great lyric. But now we can't get away with that, can we? It's not just, when I see her walking down the street, I said, that's the kind of girl I'd like to meet. I mean, that just doesn't cut it
like
anymore.
Bubblegum pop or something.
Yeah. That goes back before your time, Nate.
Yeah.
Mike and I remember that song.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you don't hear songs like that anymore.
Not anymore. But so anything else, Mike, that comes to it?
Yeah, I think one thing with the lyrics now, there's a movement more towards being more conversational. When you read a lyric, is it more like a regular someone talking, more conversational, not like old time poetry?
Okay.
Or forced. I find that is more the trend now. When you read it, I mean, that's how the words jump off the page.
As if the writer is talking to you. Or talking to someone else.
Or you're talking, this is your voice. That's how you can crawl inside that lyric by, that's my story.
Yeah.
That's my song. Yeah.
Okay.
So
right.
that's really interesting to see that, since you've been doing this for so long, that you've actually seen how that has changed and you've had to adapt to that, the style of songwriting and lyric writing.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really pushed me out of country, because I kept being told, be more cut edge, do this, and I didn't want to write that way. I
Okay.
mean, even country music, look how it has changed in the last 10 years.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it has really
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. True.
And
Yeah.
even Christian music, look how it has changed from the 80s, 90s to now. And
That's
Mm.
yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say, I kind of feel like, when talking about country, and I think that there's some still what you would call like hardcore or like true original Christian or country music, but a lot of the stuff that passes for country now, it's basically pop music, done by
mm,
country artists, and even pop music. Everything's just kind of the same. You hear a lot of crossovers on the radio, and I just feel like a lot of the genres are just blurring together now.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if that's intentional by the music industry or what.
I think too, they're so stressed for profits, the
Yeah.
music industry, that's all they focus on. I mean,
Yeah.
they do not. Years ago, they were grooming artists like
Mm.
Reba McEntire had many that were flops at first, but now she's a big success. But now, if you don't come out of that gate with a hit, you are not going to make it in the music
Mm.
business. It is
Hmm.
ruthless.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And what makes a hit these days? And I guess again we're focusing on songwriting, on the lyrics. Um, is has again, like we said, it has changed so much. That where was I going with that? Oh, Mike, talk about worship songs, worship songwritings, set writing versus, excuse me, not versus, compared to uh, like the conversational, the solo type
Hmm.
songs. So how do you see that difference, that comparison?
There is when I'm writing, I'll, I look at it and I say, would this be more like a solo artist song? Or like Risen, I could see more, it could actually be both because the chorus would be more worship.
Yeah.
Um, so I could see that both. But some songs you write, they're going to be worship song. And that's your intention, to write it as a worship song. Um, you're writing it more at your one-on-one relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
You're just praising him, and it'll come through that way. Normally, when I write a worship song,
Mm-hmm.
and then other songs like solo, your focus is different. It's more my story, with my walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, like even the one song I'm working on is called "Ask the Animals." That comes from Job 12:7. But ask the animals, and they will teach you. Now, this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be a children's song because you can
Oh,
just tell, with the subject matter. But there's a place for that too,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
children's
I
songs.
like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, ask the animals, and they will teach you.
Mike, I, I want to share just a little bit of the lyric to Risen, if I may, just to
Oh,
kind of
sure.
just to outline what you were just saying about the chorus. And listen
Hmm.
to these lyrics, friends. Risen is the Lord of glory. Risen is the Holy One. Risen is the Messiah. Risen is Christ, and life has won.
Mm.
A fairly short four-line chorus
Hmm.
that would be very easy for the congregation or the audience to sing along with.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of lyric right there, I think, Mike, that you're talking about as far as uh, worship. That would be a praise chorus. A worship song would be written like that. But then let me read the first verse. And
Okay.
this, and like you said, this seems to be kind of a combination. The first
Hmm.
verse goes, "In the darkness just before a new day would begin, little did the disciples believe that life could win. But like a seed in the ground that's ready to break through, came the first Easter morning, so victorious and new."
Mm.
That's the first verse. I love that, Mike. I love that.
Oh,
And
thank you.
and that is it, it's a great, and again, I think this maybe this song could go either way, but there's an example of the first verse. Uh, it's kind of telling a story. It's relating an event. It's talking about what happened, and then the chorus goes into into praise. Love that. Love that.
It almost reminds me a little bit of Matt Redman's writing style. I mean, he's often said of himself that he tends to get a little wordy. Like he knows that about himself, and he admits it. The verses tend to be kind of wordy, but then the choruses are so singable that the
Yeah.
congregations all over the world sing his songs. But
Mhm.
it has a flair of that. Like obviously the message is amazing, and everybody should either be hearing it or singing it.
Right.
And I would love to hear that song sung in
Oh
churches,
yeah,
Mike.
that would be great, Mike.
Yeah, that one,
Yeah.
that risen, because of what we're going through with the isolation. You hear so much of, the news, and Easter has taken on a new meaning for me this year.
Mm.
I
Tell us.
really see, and especially that line, risen is Christ and life has won. That really, through what we're going through, life is still going to win. And thanks to Easter. And like I said, this year and I'm normally not one to write a lot of Easter songs, but now I am. And I think it's because of what we're going through.
So tell us a little bit more about that, Mike. How was the Easter different for you this year?
Well, not going to church. This
Yeah.
is the first time, I think, in my whole life I have not been in church on Easter. I cannot think of, in my 58 years, ever not going to church. It was so different, not smelling the lilies and being with the people and praising together. And I mean, Easter is our victory.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so different. But still, what you see outside, the flowers, the daffodils, the tulips, nature, the trees with new leaves.
Yeah.
You see life is still here. And and like I said, that was different. And that was one of the reasons Easter means more to me, especially the life aspect, how Christ really, rising again. That's why we celebrate.
Amen. Amen. I know that I know Nate and I both, and I know all our viewers and listeners can relate to that, because I'm sure that 99% of them, know exactly what you're talking about as far as not being able to be in church and be and worship together and celebrate that victory the way that we have typically celebrated it. We couldn't do that together. But that's great, Mike, that you're saying, and I know it's been said so many times, the churches were closed, but the world is not, we are not, the tomb is not closed, the tomb is empty. I know that's been said before, but your song there isn't that just really drives the point home even farther, I think. So thank you for writing that, Mike.
Yeah, I actually shared it with my pastor, and I'm really pleased how it's been accepted. People have liked it, so.
Awesome.
And we'll work on that. Maybe that'll be our next one to collaborate on.
I think that's a good idea.
I like that.
We have one in the progress, don't we, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm sorry.
The Spirit of the Lord is moving.
Spirit of the Lord is
That's
moving. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a good song. It's going to be great. What's the name of it? I don't know.
We have so many irons in the fire right now. It's crazy.
The Spirit of the Lord isn't moving in that direction right now.
That's right.
Oh, anyway.
So, Mike, I'm curious about where you find inspiration. I know you already mentioned scripture, obviously, will inspire lyrics for you, but I would imagine, being a lyricist for so long, that you probably kind of have little antennae that are up all the time, and you probably just hear phrases or things in people's conversations that spark ideas for you for lyrics. So I just want to kind of like get into your head, like, what's your process for starting a song like that?
It's going to be funny. There's it can come from anywhere. I had the TV on, and I was just surfing through the channels, and there was one of these music stations, and then it was just all instrumental, like, I guess, new age music, but the title was Nothing But Love. And that jumped out on me. That is what Easter is, nothing but love.
Yeah. Wow.
That's why Christ did what he did, why he was hanging on the tree. And from that's an example where just flipping through the stations.
Wow.
And then I Googled it. That's another thing people could do before they start writing a lyric. Google it to see if how many people has that title been used? Was it a hit?
Yeah.
You don't want to write a song that was, a big hit. You can't do El Shaddai. That was already taken.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
true.
Wad that one up.
So I did that. So I did that immediately. Googled nothing but love, and I
Yeah.
did not. I only saw one pop song from years ago that someone did that, but no Christian. So then I
Yeah.
started working on the lyric.
Interesting.
Mhm.
That's just an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
it can
like I
come
said,
from
a lot of
anywhere.
times messages too. Listening to the sermon, I get little ideas and I write it down on the back of the church bulletin. Like, oh, I like that line, and then I'll later work on it. I find that lyrics come sometimes. It's like a seed. It's got to be buried, and then it'll sprout. It takes some time. It's very rare to write something complete in
Yeah.
one sitting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pieces sometimes that come together.
But
Yeah.
they say great songs are not written. They're written and then they're rewritten and then they're rewritten or added to and
Yes.
added to and added to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's interesting that the ones when a song is, you'll hear that somebody will say, well, I wrote the whole song in 5 minutes on the back of a napkin. But that's so rare that happens, right, Mike? They're typically, like you said, they're a seed that's planted and they just develop over time. Yeah.
It does. It takes time. Yeah, and then you polish it. You look at it. You write it.
Yeah.
And then you have to rework it, rewrite it, and sometimes even collaborating with songwriters, you gotta, like, the Spirit of the Lord is moving.
Yes.
You needed some extra lines. And
Right. Yep.
you have to do that.
It's very true. Very true. And there's sometimes a brick wall that we just can't get through, but somebody else can come along and say, well, try this. And all of a sudden, boom, it opens right up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned collaborating, we should probably talk about that. If there's anybody listening to this or watching this that is a lyricist and, they don't play an instrument or they don't sing and they think, well, I have all these lyrics. What do I do with them? What would you say to them to help them get their lyrics heard?
One thing I would say is definitely work with songwriters, either people in the church or people you can join the songwriting online. They have different websites. You can work with people that way. You can work Skype. I've done that a lot. That's another way to do it. So that's a way to get your lyric out there. Definitely, there's lyric contests too. Be careful of those. But American Songwriter, they had that a contest. That's another way to get exposure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think that you started what I was thinking about, Nate, was asking you, Mike, about advice. And again, in collaboration, that's part of it. Other advice that you might give to someone that writes poetry. Let's say somebody writes poetry. I'm just going to throw an example out there that doesn't. And I guess I know this goes right into the collaboration thing, but someone that writes poetry and would like to expand into writing songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, lyric writing is different from poetry. Poetry stands on its own. It doesn't need a melody. They can just be read, and that's how it. But a lyric, normally, if you read lyrics, it can be boring. Without the music. So there's song structure, different styles of lyric writing. So you have to learn the craft.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can grow with a composer too. You two can be starting at the same place and work towards.
Yeah.
Another thing too, they write a lyric and they think, oh, I got to get this copyrighted, and oh, this is going to be a major hit. Well, that's normally not going to happen. So, I mean, you can get your lyric copyrighted, but normally it's a waste of time and money.
Mhm.
You know, as long as you have copies and, you know, you keep good records, that can
Yeah.
protect you.
Right, right.
And to stay humble, because it's very rare to write something that the world's going to hear
Mm.
or
Yeah,
want. Very rare. But keep doing it. Do it for the love. Do it for your
yeah.
love of the Lord. That should be your main motive, not for money, not to be
Mhm.
heard on the radio, not to have gold records. I think if you really write for the right reason.
It has to start there, doesn't it? No matter where it goes, it has to start there.
Has to start there, yeah.
Yeah, starts in the heart.
But
Nate,
I
what were
started writing poetry. That was my first thing in
you did?
school, in high
Okay.
school, before I
Mhm.
started writing song lyrics. So,
Yeah. And then quickly, how did you kind of go from from poetry into what was it
uh,
that made you kind of prompted you to switch over to writing
well,
songs?
of course, I grew up, Paul, you and I did, when you could read the lyrics on the back of the albums. Remember that?
Oh, I sure
Like
do.
Tapestry and all those,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
Beatles
yeah.
albums, right?
Yeah. Open them
Sergeant
up, and there's it.
Pepper's.
Yeah.
There it
Uh-huh.
was. And I loved reading those lyrics on the back
Mm.
of the albums. Oh, I just found it fascinating
Yeah.
how those lyrics worked with that tune.
Yeah.
And just, so I think that was a
Cool.
real learning thing for me. And
Okay.
why it was easy for me to transition from that
Right.
to,
Right.
and then working with people actually in college with music,
Mm.
and made it easy being in the same room.
Yeah.
And I knew that we had to sing these, that was the main thing.
Mm.
Awesome. Awesome.
It was a
And
learning process. It took me a long time. It
right.
just didn't, I had to learn the craft. And,
Yes, I was just going to say that was the next thought I had about getting you have to do it, and it's like a muscle. We need to exercise it, and the more we do it, the better we're going to get. And I
Right.
think, like you said, if you expect that first or second song to be a big hit, you can retire on it. No, it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, but the more we do it, even if nobody, like you say, Mike, even if nobody hears it, you keep writing, you keep doing it. It's again like exercise. And every
Mhm.
lyric you write, every song you write is going to get a little bit better. Yeah.
An example is Fanny Crosby, the one who,
Mm.
Blessed Assurance.
Yeah.
I think she penned over 3,000 lyrics in her
That's
day.
incredible.
We only remember a handful of them.
Yeah.
Blessed Assurance, Pass me not, O gentle Savior. I mean, just a few of them stand out and live on and on.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she still is very prolific.
Wow. 3,000. I did not know that.
Over 3,000. Google.
Wow.
Yeah. She would
Yeah.
write sometimes 2 or 3 a day.
And
And
she
then
did
she'll,
not write music, did she? She just
no,
wrote
she didn't.
right
No, she worked with all the composers of the day.
of the
Yeah.
day.
Mm.
Right. 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 Mike, we got about 4 minutes left here, 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
What other thoughts can we share with those who are watching and listening that maybe something you've said or we've said today has kind of sparked something in them?
Well,
What
I think
advice? Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think people might be interested in hearing a little bit. It'll have to be short, but how you've gotten involved with songwriters, like you said in Nashville, or people who have actually ended up recording
Mhm.
songs using your lyrics.
Yeah.
Easy. Sometimes it is the Lord that'll open up the door, but mainly I worked on a Christmas song called Christmas Finds a Way. I actually worked with a composer in England, and then he and I, there was a duet that was looking for Christmas songs, and I actually saw on a Reverb Nation a site, so I sent it to them, and then next thing you know, they were interested in it and wanted to record it.
Yeah.
Basically, the door was open at that time, and
Yeah.
so that's an example
That is
of.
good. That is good. And maybe we will get together again, because I mean we certainly don't have to limit this to one session here, but maybe we'll get together again, and these are topics that we especially this topic of getting songs out there is something maybe we should talk further about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. in our next session together. But well, for now, I guess, Mike, we will sign off, and thank you so much. Wow, I mean, it's been a pleasure to talk to you tonight, and well, I say tonight because we're recording this in the evening. But the Spirit of the Lord is moving in more ways than one. We have a
always
song.
in there. That's
it's
right.
Going to be a song, and we know that the Lord is moving in all that we're doing, and we certainly give Him the praise and glory for that. So, final thoughts, Mike, for our viewers, listeners.
Yeah, just keep writing and keep your heart open and worshiping God, and He will fill it with beautiful words.
Yeah, I like that. Boy, I thought you'd say more, but you said it all right there.
Yeah.
Well, friends, we thank you as you're viewing or listening to this. Thank you so much for being a part of this and letting us share with you. Nate, would you do the honors of telling people where they can find out more?
Yeah, if you're watching us right now, you're probably on our YouTube channel, which is Notespire Music TV. You can always go to notespiremusic.com, where you can find all of our information. We're also on Facebook as Notespire Music, Instagram as Notespire Music. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can do that through the website or email us directly at info@notespiremusic.com. And Paul, why don't you tell us about WNSMDB?
Oh, Notespire Radio. Please
Yeah.
do check that out at www.notespireradio.com. WNSMDB is a 24-hour radio station that is online and there for you folks to listen to. And we're always looking for music for that too. So get in touch with us. Like Nate said, info@notespiremusic.com. And the station is also on Live 365 app. So, all right, I think that covers it all. Friends, until we see you next time, Mike, thank you so much. Mike Blottenberger.
Thank you.
Your time tonight. Friends, take care of yourselves.
And take care of each other.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.